Ujian apa sih, Sir?
Ujian asesor.
Oh alah, iya iya iya.
The government has informed this form of revolution, which constitutes matters of growth. So, at the 2022 National Congress of the Indonesian Society of Agriculture and Economics was stressed and important debate, transforming all season, strengthening agricultural sector. This international conference consists of organization, organizations, culture, and paper publications, different gathering, and concrete program that will be held on the 29th of April 2022. And finally, some considered qualifying paper proposals. As for instance, Harmonized Malam Indonesia, and also online presence, joint online Zoom application, which supported by the Central Regional and representatives of all regional participants of the Indonesian Society of Agricultural Activities. Before we move to the organization, we can control the outbreak and also we can see and our resolution. And yesterday, the president of the county and also the rector of Victoria University, the president of the House, to the national conference of the Indonesian Society of Agricultural Academics. So, this event has provided media, newspaper, radio, and also media. Ladies and gentlemen, the media organization of this event national conference of the Indonesian Society of Agricultural Academics. Absolutely more to participants at the senior defined associations. The first organization provide the financial media secretary as the use of agricultural organization of California.
Institute of Statistical Mathematical, Tokyo, Japan.
Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for the next station is the first planning station who will be delivered by Dr. Haji Syahrul Yassin Limpo, SH, MH. In 1983, he has completed his undergraduate studies at Universitas Hasanuddin Indonesia, majoring in law. In 2004, he has completed his master's studies at Universitas Indonesia, majoring in law. In 2008, he has completed his doctoral studies at Universitas Hasanuddin Indonesia, majoring in law. In 2003 until 2006, he is a vice governor of South Sulawesi. In 2008 until 2018, he is a governor of South Sulawesi. And now in 2019 until 2024, he is a Minister of Agriculture, Republic of Indonesia. With furthermore, please welcome Dr. Haji Syahrul Yassin Limpo, SH, MSc, MH, and time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sehat, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Hamdan wa syukran lillah. Wala haula wala quwata illa billah. Rabbi sholli sholli wa yassir li amri wahlulatan min lisani yafqahu qawli jalali yasirin ali. Yang saya hormati Menteri PPN, Kepala Bappenas, Bapak Suharso Munarfa, atau bersama jajaran yang saya hormati, para pembicara dalam negeri maupun luar negeri yang hadir dalam konferensi internasional ini, para panitia internasional conference, baik dari Perhappy maupun dari Unibrau, lebih khusus teman saya, sahabat saya, saudara saya, Profesor Dr. Busnanil Arifin yang saya banggakan, para peserta international conference yang sama saya muliakan. Mari kita panjatkan puji syukur kepada Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa atas segala limpahan rahmat dan karunia-Nya. Pada hari ini kita semua hadir dalam rangka pelaksanaan international conference oleh Perhappy, Pak Busnanul Arifin bersama teman-teman yang menggagas kegiatan internasional ini. Saya ingin menyampaikan rasa salut saya, rasa bangga saya, rasa terima kasih saya, karena tentu saja hasilan dari Perhappy sebentar akan menjadi rekomendasi-rekomendasi bagi bangsa ini, lebih khusus bagi Kementan dalam mengupayakan berbagai aktivitas baru dalam meningkatkan produktivitas dan terobosan kita menghadapi tantangan di bidang pertanian. Hadirin yang sama saya hormati, sampai hari ini kita semua sedang menghadapi kekhawatiran adanya kemungkinan permasalahan pangan dunia, atau bisa dikatakan situasi pangan tidak lebih baik-baik saja. Kondisi ini terjadi secara global dan memberi dampak yang luar biasa pada seluruh dunia, khususnya bagi negara-negara berkembang termasuk kita di Indonesia. Beberapa pemicu diantaranya adalah inflasi beberapa negara saat ini luar biasa, dan inflasi Amerika Serikat yang biasanya tidak lebih dari 1, sekarang ini sudah 7,2, Uni Eropa 6,8%, Turki bahkan sudah 61%, Indonesia 2,3%, dan kita tentu berharap ini dapat kita pertahankan minimal ya untuk tidak berkembang lebih tinggi lagi. Harga-harga yang naik karena pemicu BBM dan solar, kondisi global yang terkontaminasi, dan tentu berdampak juga dalam negeri yang ikut terkoreksi dari berbagai hal yang kita lakukan. Dan masih banyak isu lain seperti pandemi COVID-19 di beberapa negara yang belum juga usai. Perubahan iklim atau climate change mengancam produksi pangan dunia. Perang yang terjadi di Ukraina dan Rusia menjadi bagian-bagian yang tentu memicu hadirnya berbagai krisis energi dan pangan ke depan. Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, oleh karena itu kita tentu berharap sebagai bagian dari stakeholder bagi bangsa ini, reposisi politik pertanian perlu dilakukan dengan tujuan mencukupi kebutuhan pangan penduduk dan menstabilkan harga pangan di dalam negeri, serta menjamin usaha pertanian yang kondusif untuk memperbesar produksi kita, bahkan ini kesempatan untuk melakukan ekspor di bidang-bidang tentu pertanian. Petani juga harus dijamin terakses lahan, air, dan permodalannya. Selain itu, sektor pertanian Indonesia harus siap menghadapi era revolusi Indonesia, industri 4.0, dan digitalisasi agar dapat bersaing dengan negara-negara lain penghasil pangan. Peserta konferensi yang saya hormati, hadirin sekalian, untuk memenuhi tantangan tersebut, Kementerian Pertanian tentu tidak bisa mengelak dan harus siap. Dan berkaca dari masa pandemi COVID-19, dengan dorongan usaha kerja yang dilakukan pemerintah, termasuk Kementerian Pertanian, yang telah menunjukkan hasil, misalnya dilihat di beberapa indikator makro seperti PDB sektor pertanian pada triwulan 2 tahun 2020, di saat ekonomi turun 4,19%, justru sektor pertanian tumbuh positif 16,24% quarter to quarter. Ekspor produk pertanian juga menunjukkan kinerja yang menggembirakan. Nilai ekspor kumulatif Januari-Desember 2021 mencapai 625 triliun lebih atau meningkat 38,69% dibandingkan tahun 2020. Indikator lain seperti NTP, nilai tukar petani, juga menunjukkan perkembangan yang menggembirakan. Sejak Juni 2020 senantiasa mengalami kenaikan. Bahkan data NTP Maret 2022 mencapai 109,29% atau naik 0,42% dibandingkan NTP bulan Februari 2022. Begitu pula penyerapan tenaga kerja pertanian mengalami peningkatan berdasarkan data BPS bulan Februari 2022. Sektor pertanian berkontribusi menyerap tenaga kerja tertinggi, yaitu 29,96% dari total penduduk yang bekerja sebanyak 135,61 juta orang, atau meningkat 1,86 juta orang dibandingkan Februari 2021. Hal ini menunjukkan bahwa sektor pertanian menjadi penopang penduduk yang kehilangan lapangan pekerjaan pada saat Indonesia dilanda krisis pandemi COVID-19 yang sangat serius itu. Dalam hal pendanaan pertanian dari dalam negeri, dikala terjadi penurunan dana pemerintah, Kementerian Pertanian mencari alternatif pendanaan melalui skema kredit usaha rakyat atau KUR. Dengan berbagai kemudahan, kita mendorong KUR menjadi bagian-bagian untuk memodali pertanian yang ada di Indonesia. Pendanaan ini cukup sukses. Terbukti penyaluran KUR tahun 2021 mencapai 122,31% dari target 70 triliun. Atau dengan kata lain, di atas 85 triliun menjadi modal bagi pertanian kita. Capaian lain seperti produktivitas padi juga tidak kalah dibandingkan negara ASEAN lainnya. Indonesia menduduki nomor 2 setelah Vietnam dalam hal produktivitas padi yang mencapai 5,19 ton per hektar. Begitu pula indikator lain seperti inflasi yang terkendali dengan baik. Tidak hanya itu, 3 tahun ini Indonesia tidak mengimpor lagi beras untuk konsumsi kita dan juga termasuk jagung, selain yang dibutuhkan untuk industri. Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian yang sama saya hormati, keberhasilan yang telah dicapai pada masa pandemik perlu terus kita tingkatkan. Oleh karena itu, Kementerian Pertanian juga melakukan antisipasi menghadapi tantangan pembangunan pertanian ke depan yang semakin kompleks. Pada masa mendatang pembangunan pertanian dihadapkan berbagai tantangan, mulai dari peningkatan jumlah penduduk, urbanisasi, perubahan iklim, bencana alam, serta berbagai aspek lain seperti distribusi, harga, dan perdagangan global yang mengalami dinamika yang sangat tinggi. Dalam rangka menghadapi tantangan ke depan, Kementerian Pertanian telah merencanakan program dengan kegiatan sebagai kelanjutan pembangunan pertanian tahun-tahun sebelumnya. Meliputi yang pertama program ketersediaan, akses, dan konsumsi pangan yang berkualitas. Yang kedua, program nilai tambah dan daya saing industri, program ketiga program riset, inovasi, ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi, dan keempat program pendidikan dan pelatihan vokasi. Serta yang kelima, program dukungan manajemen. Untuk mempertajam pelaksanaan program tersebut telah dirancang strategi melalui 5 cara bertindak, yaitu peningkatan kapasitas produksi atau CB1, yang kedua diversifikasi pangan lokal atau CB2, penguatan cadangan dan sistem logistik pangan CB3, pengembangan pertanian modern CB4, dan gerakan 3 kali ekspor menjadi CB5. Program dan strategi yang telah dirancang pada dasarnya telah memperhitungkan perkembangan pertanian modern agar siap berkompetisi dengan negara lain penghasil pertanian. Untuk itu, Kementerian Pertanian berkomitmen melakukan akselerasi pembangunan pertanian menyesuaikan kebutuhan dunia yang serba digital, jaminan kualitas produksi pertanian prima, dan ramah lingkungan. Saat ini kami berkonsentrasi untuk juga melakukan aktivitas pertanian tidak hanya di on-farm, tapi di off-farmnya. Eskalasi pengembangan bisnis pertanian itu kita rancang antara lain mendorong terbukanya dan terciptanya bisnis pertanian yang lebih luas. Yang kedua, mendukung wira swasta muda di bidang pertanian, menjadi harapan kita. Yang ketiga, melakukan pendampingan bagi usaha-usaha pertanian untuk ekspor dan usaha menengah dan besar di bidang pertanian. Yang keempat, melakukan pelatihan-pelatihan dan bantuan untuk pengembangan usaha-usaha pertanian yang bersifat digital. Dan kelima, melindungi produk dan usaha pertanian nasional agar makin maju, makin mandiri dan modern. Bapak, Ibu, dan hadirin sekalian yang sama saya hormati, peserta konferensi yang sangat saya muliakan, dan yang sama saya hormati teman-teman dari Perhappy yang sangat saya banggakan. Saya menunggu hasil konferensi kita hari ini, dan tentu saya menunggu rekomendasi-rekomendasi yang ada. Ingat, Perhappy adalah mitra yang sangat kami butuhkan mendampingi semua kebijakan dan tentu mencarikan solusi-solusi pertanian. Bapak Ibu sekalian, sebagai bentuk dari upaya bersama lintas negara dari konferensi ini juga menjadi bagian-bagian yang tentu saja sangat kita butuhkan untuk menghadirkan terobosan-terobosan di bidang pertanian. Pada akhirnya, saya menyampaikan selamat melakukan konferensi internasional Perhappy ini. Saya akan menunggu rekomendasi yang ada, Pak Bustanul, dan tentu saja kesuksesan konferensi ini adalah kesuksesan kita semua. Terima kasih, semoga ridha Allah bersama kita. Sekian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haji Syahrul Yassin Limpo, SH, MSEMH, for your presentation in the first plenary session of the 2022 International Conference of the Indonesian Society of Agricultural Economics. And we are looking forward to seeing you again in the upcoming event. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the second plenary session, we'll hear the presentation for several presenters. And for the second plenary session will be led by our moderator, and I will be directly reading his curriculum vitae. In 1998, he has completed his undergraduate studies at Universitas Hasanuddin Indonesia, majoring in social economics. And he has completed his master's studies at Institute Pertanian Bogor, Indonesia, majoring in agricultural economics. He has completed his doctoral studies at Ryokoku, Kyoto, Japan, majoring in agricultural economic and rural development. He is a professor in Universitas Hasanuddin Makassar, Indonesia. He is a director of Publication Management Center in Universitas Hasanuddin Makassar, Indonesia. And now, Let us welcome Profesor Insinyur Muhammad Arsyad, MSc PhD from Universitas Hasanuddin Makassar.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please allow me to appreciate my thanks to Professor Bustalul Arifin as a President of Indonesian Society of Agricultural Economics, who give me task to be chair of this session. When he was asking me to be session chair today, well, honestly speaking, I cannot say no anyway. Thank you, Pak Ilul. And here also we have Secretary General of Indonesian Society of Agriculture Economics, Dr. Sujarwo. Let me also say thanks to Bu Lely as a Vice Secretary General of this association, and also Dr. Suprihatin with us here in Malang, and all of the regional commissariat of Perhevi coming here, and also in Zooming platform. As a chair of this session, we have three invited speakers. First one is Atsushi Yashimoto, professor of Institute of Statistical Mathematics in Tokyo, Japan. Yashimoto sensei, irasaimasu ka? Second one is Professor Yohei Kada, professor of Shiga Nobuete Gakuen University, Osaka. And the third one is Professor Hermanto Siregars. He formerly was president of Indonesian Society of Agricultural Economics. Now he is president of Perbanas University and as a senior professor in IPB University. That three invited speaker we have today. And let me go to the first invited speakers. Atsushi Yashimoto. Yashimoto sensei, are you ready?
Hello?
Yashimoto sensei,
Yes, yes.
いいですか?
Can you hear me?
すいません。はい。おはようございます。
おはようございます。
今、いいですか?
大丈夫です。どうもありがとうございます。どうもありがとうございます。So can I share the screen?
Yeah, please. どうぞ。
どうぞ。I don't have a, okay. No, I don't have a right to share the screen.
Yeah.
Host, can you make me?
いいですか, 先生?
No, I cannot share the screen.
Please. Okay.
It said,
please screen.
Can you make me share the screen? Give me. Oh, yes. Screen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okie dokie.
Okay, どうぞ、先生。
Okay. Wait. Something is wrong. ちょっと待ってください。
大丈夫です。
これでいいのかな? よいしょ。よいしょ。で、よし。これでいいですかね。It's okay?
Okay.
Okay. It's okay. Sorry about this. So as long as you can see the screen, I just go to the my presentation. Okay, let me prepare myself. Okay. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Bustan Ralphin, to invite me and give me an opportunity to talk on something I have done before. And I try to see what I can provide to the conference now. So I chose something on the spread of disastrous event for the management scheme. Since we have many disaster events, for instance, here is the spread of Japanese oak wilt in Hiroshima, Japan. And those wilt become a very serious problem in forestry. And also you may have those invasive insect problem in agricultural area too. So those insects fly away and damage the product, especially, and make business unstable. This is another example in the United States. They are serious about mountain pine beetles attacking the forestry. And they observe how much area is damaged by these mountain beetles. So they collect the data, and from 2000 to 15, and the project what's going to happen in the future. So they have a model based on the data and to forecast what will be happen in the future. So given those forecasts, our question is, can we avoid this disturbance, the damage through the management scheme? So instead of letting an insect or those damage happen, we want to stop those spread and make the business more stable and sustainable. And if it is possible, and the economic question comes, how much it will cost? Since if we have a tremendous amount of money, we spend all to stop those attacks. But since budget is always limited, we have a limited amount of the budget for every year. So we have to limit the place to treat and make business more beneficial and sustainable and resilient. Okay, so in forestry and also agriculture, we have two main targets. One is a single land unit, and another is multiple land units. So for the control for the single land unit is to make the unit resistant to the disaster. It's individually. For the multiple land units, we need to treat more spatially to stop the spread of damage. So the question is it possible to make it solve it more mathematically and theoretically? And this is just an example. I just took it from a website, and also this forestry is my own. And the difference between the agriculture paddy field and the forestry is a time scale. For instance, a paddy field is annual production, while a forestry is a multi-period productions. So, but the process looks very similar. Instead of having a thinning control in the forestry and the paddy field, they may have irrigation control and some fertilizer and the chemical to control the insect or disease. So for those single round unit, the mathematical model to control or have an optimal solution is a dynamic programming approach. We seek the further control we can apply to the paddy field and the forestry. And then we have a growth model based on the data you collect, and then put everything into the framework of a dynamic programming and seek for the optimal solutions. Then on the other hand, this is multi-round units require something special control or treatment over the land use. Well, for instance, there is some very vulnerable area for the insect attack or the strong prey. So it's those strengths of land against a disaster event depends on the quality of land and the characteristics of the land. So we apply the different treatment for different land unit to make more stable over the landscape. So to do so, we apply the mixed integer programming approach. So there is a two main target, as I said. For the single round use, we apply the dynamic programming approach, and for the spatially multiple round unit, we apply mixed integer programming. So here we apply the mixed integer programming. Right? But anyway, before going into the mathematical programming talk, we need some model to describe this spread. One of the model which can describe those spread very well is called cellular automatons. That is developed by the von Neumann, and that's a discrete model studied in computer science, mathematics, and those many areas. So we apply those model to describe the spread of disaster events. For instance, this is an example of cellular automatons, regular spread, and the surface of the shell look like following this cellular automaton. It's one spread, another spread, another spread. So it's more like a sequential change over the space. So for instance, well, let's assume this dark place is damaged or colonized cell, and for the next time instance, the disease or some disaster event spread over the space. And looking at this attacked area, and this area have an effect from each colonized cell, and there is a rule for the cell to be damaged or undamaged. So those are the mathematical hypothesis to make it and make it look like a real event. So for the Japanese oak wilt case, and we have oak and insect comes and attack fly, and then and then those group of insect damaged and the tree, and then wilts came out and the tree died. But if number of insect is not so big, and trees are still okay, it's not dying. So there's some the threshold value of the number to kill the Japanese oak. So by observing those events of insect attack to the forest trees, and okay. We will, we just make some model to describe this event. Okay, if we have the damaged trees and insect fly to neighbor or over the space to the another trees, and if the number or some event and the number of the insect it doesn't reach the threshold level, and the tree is still alive, so undamaged. And if that's increase or over the threshold value, and the damage comes. So for this, we will use a damage probability. It depends on the number of the insect attacked. So given those assumptions, we can make a mathematical model to describe this damage of the trees. Okay, we introduce the space variable, which is represented by GIT. This is the state describing the unit to be damaged or not damaged. If this becomes 1, it's damaged, not 0. So we have to decide that each cell or each unit has G equals 0 or 1. So this depends on the other conditions. And we have a probability for G become 1 or 0. That is the function of SIT, that is the number of disaster seeds, the number of insects. So, if number of insects accumulated in the tree, then the value of probability for the unit becomes damaged increase. So this is the more like probability type shape curve. So this gamma is this is more species specific parameter value, which is always less than 1. So as you can see, if number of insects accumulated becomes infinity, this part becomes so this gamma part becomes 0. So we use the threshold probability value for damage. And sorry, I don't have a pointer here. So do I have a pointer? Okay, sorry, I don't have a pointer now. So this is not good. But anyway, so this probability rule is controlled by the number of insect or seed, and that's where we decide the cell of a unit becomes damaged or undamaged. Okay, so this is the some function of state, the number of insect, the number of seed to attack the trees or area. And this is the function of state of surrounding the unit, because insect comes from a damaged area. Nothing comes from a very healthy state, and also that is represented by the G. I think I can have. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I'll try to see if I can use. No, I cannot use the pointer. But anyway, so having those rules. Oh, wait. So this is the curve of the probability, and its change depends on. I'm very sorry for this. This is something wrong. Okay, based on those functions, and we can specify the curve of the probability to become 1 or 0. So we enter the threshold line. This is a vertical, a horizontal line. So if the probability, the calculated probability becomes more than 0.5, and then damage happens. So it always depends on threshold value of the probability for the damage. And then more insects came, and then the more probable the tree or area become damaged. Okay, so it doesn't go. Oh, this is just a different curve. Depends on the different value of the gamma or the species specific values. So this is just a simulation based on this cellular automaton model. And if we have a three damage the area, the spread over the time it becomes as follows: period 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So as you can see, for the first time, the area is separated, fragmented, but over the time, the damaged area gather and accumulate and become more. Okay, so this is the model to describe how spread occurs over the time and over the space. Then for the management question, we introduce the control, and the question, can we control this spread over the space and time? So there are two types of the control we can apply. We can apply treatment to the damaged the area or unit. So we call the post-treatment. And or we can apply the pre-treatment for undamaged area. So there are two different. If we observe this, insect attacked trees, we may apply some kind of treatment, cut trees or some spray and so on. And for the healthy trees, we may have some chemical to avoid attack of trees and so on, to reduce the number of insect attack. So there's a two different control. And of course, the effect of these two different control are different. For instance, for the pre-treatment, we just multiply the alpha to the rest of the functions. So alpha means when we apply some spray or something to avoid the insect coming, the number reduce. And for the damaged area or the damaged cell, if we apply treatment, the number or the distance for the insect to fly reduced. So D is the distance. So alpha and the beta are the effect of pre and the post-treatment for the insect to fly. So that will affect the state of a unit to become damaged or undamaged. So when we introduce two different control, the result of a state have four cases we can think of. For instance, what will happen if we apply the pre-treatment for the ice cell and the post-treatment for a J cell. So that means we apply control for two units, undamaged and damaged. And then those a number of insect fly to the ice from the J change. Or if we have treatment for ice cell and nothing for the damaged. And we do nothing for health undamaged cell and some treatment for damaged area, or we have no control for both cases. So there's four cases based on two different control. So based on these two different control, we have four outcomes. So we need to associate those two different control with four different outcomes. So this is the mathematical equation to deal with it. So there's a number of cases. So again, we have a probability rule to specify the unit becomes damaged and undamaged. And by looking at this equation, you can see the probability is not linear functions. So to use mathematical programming approach, we need to linearize this probability of functions and put into the integer programming or mixed integer programming. So as you can see, we have a nice transformation, logarithmic transformation to make this factorial function to a linear function. So when you apply this logarithmic transformation, we can make it non-linear probability function to a linear functions very nicely. So then there is some mathematical description to apply threshold value for the priority. And we depends on the threshold value for the cell or unit to become damaged and damaged. So that is represented by the P bar. And also we can put into the linear function or just forget about those. And there is also just I want to see there is a mathematical formulation to make it to be controlled by the mathematical formulation and mathematical programming way. We have objective function, the constraint, and we have a mathematical equation to describe dynamics of insect spread or disease spread or disaster event spread. And we have a control to reduce this spread, and which is applied to the undamaged or damaged area. And we will see what will happen, what we can do to reduce the cost of the treatment plus cost of damage. And also we have a budget constraint. Within the budget constraint, so what's the best treatment to reduce the spread of a disaster event? So this is just, I want to show you there's a way to describe those management problem, and we can solve over the space. Go. Okay. Okay, so this is how very hypothetical example. We have a damaged cell by the square block. And if we don't have nothing, it's newly damaged cells becomes over the time. Period 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. So square is damaged cell. So insect comes from a damaged cell. And white square is undamaged area. And the black circle is a newly damaged cell. So you can see how this disaster event spread and kill, make cell damaged. In this case, we don't have any tone control. Okay. So this is another example. Okay, this is another example for two cases. And this cross square is first damaged cell, and over the one period, the black circle becomes a damaged area without any of damaged area, and the white circle is undamaged cell with treatment. So we apply this white circle with a treatment, and nothing on the black circle, and this cross square is damaged cell with a treatment. So that means it's a front line of damaged cell. Surely damaged no matter what you make a treatment or not. So don't do nothing for those areas because it doesn't matter. You just waste your treatment cost, but you apply some pre-treatment over the beyond this front line. And the period 2 and the same, and you can see how treatment is allocated to do nothing for a very surely damaged area, and the new area, you know, is some of the places has a treatment to reduce the damage cost and so on and so forth. Okay. So this is another example, and we have first, this is I said, as you can see, front line is always control. This is changing the parameter value doesn't move. Okay. So different value of the parameter and also effect of the pre-treatment and the post-treatment. So things look different, but always a front line of a damaged area is always control. So this is the another example to show the damaged and so on. Okay, this I just forget about it. And we have this case. We up to this we assume and the area is very much homogeneous. And okay, maybe some place is very resistant to the damage, or some place is very easy for the insect to fly over. So speed and the hillside and downward hillside, the upward hillside, and the insect fly speed are different. So that means the distance of tree insect fly is different. So in that case, we need to think of heterogeneous cases. Oh, this is a heterogeneous dispersal distance. Slope and downward slope, upper slope, and not homogeneous. So for this case, what will happen if we have an insect attack and the treatment? And where is the place we apply the pre-treatment or post-treatment? So through the mathematical program approach, we can specify where is the place for the treatment. And also this is a heterogeneous threshold value. So resistant to the insect attack. So if we assume some place is very resistant to the insect attack, then threshold value is different. Okay, some is very easy to be damaged, and some is very difficult to be damaged. So it's same approach, but different value of parameter for the attack. Homogeneous, this is a homogeneous case, and heterogeneous case. So you can see how the spread change depends on the homogeneous and the heterogeneous. And there's a different case. So what I'd like to show you is there is the mathematical program approach to control those spread or disastrous event and actual area. And we have maybe damage by the typhoon, damage by the insect, damage by the flood. And we try to see how we can avoid those disaster events. And if there is some control to reduce the damage, then the question is, why is there a place to apply the treatment and when to apply? And because we have a budget constraint, we cannot do everything for all places. So we have to limit and make an efficient treatment scheme to make a system very stable and sustainable. And this can be also applied to the fire control. And we think of applying this fire treatment for the poultry case. They are working on the fire spread modeling and ask us to make some model to prevent or to make area resistant to the fire attack. Okay, thank you very much. Those content is from a paper we published in 2016. If you are interested, please look for this paper, or you can approach to me through the Dr. Bustanu Alvin. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much to Yoshimoto Sensei for very nice presentation. And he actually has agenda next another agenda. That's why we open the question. Probably Sensei 1 or 2 questions, and then going to you.
Yes.
Okay, I give the floor first. Who will? Okay, Prof. Bustanul, please. You please give me one.
Test. Thank you very much, Yoshimoto Sensei.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, question before we do control in your model, did you do any preconditional check? For example, the level of invasive of that insect. Okay, is there any prerequisite normally done by the modeler, whether these insects are very invasive, so you cannot do preventing, instead you controlling the spread. So my point, if we did that before this insect spread, such as, okay, you can do preventing before you do controlling. Probably the result is different. The optimization will be different. So this is the first question. The second, for management implication. Since we are doing now, looking for the strategies that you want to call, okay, strategies for maintaining the productivity of any crops or for the sustainability in the future. What are the mathematical application in the automaton that you develop can be applied to this kind of management practices? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Bustanul. We still have one question. Yoshimoto Sensei in the chat room. She asked that what's different between single land units and multiple, and its impact on agricultural land use. That's
Okay.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Bustaru, and good questions. For the first one, this is a sample. Spread over insect may different. So that's why, as I show you in the last heterogeneous cases, and before we apply the treatment on the ground, we can check it if we can prevent spread. And maybe if insect fly all over very quickly, and then solution is no way to control it. So no waste any money to treatment. Or even if we think, even if the insect fly very fast, maybe solution show you the nice good place for the treatment. So those are testing for the insect. It's very good. And with those information, we put into the this model to see if this is possible to prevent this spread of insect attack. So what Stan said is can be controlled through this current model approach. And for the second question, for the sustainability, my model only considers the damage cost and the treatment cost. This is only a special issue. So to consider this sustainable production issue, we can combine these. We can make some model for the sustainable productivity. So we spread one for sustainable productivity and one for insect control. Then combine it. For instance, maybe we can make an objective function to maximize the benefit from sustainable productivity and subtract those treatment costs. So cost and the benefit and make one objective function, and the solution will say, okay, given the current condition, we can sustain the production level, by applying the pre-treatment or post-treatment in some places. Okay, for instance, maybe if an area is very productive and we want to save or keep the area for the production, so maybe apply the treatment to avoid the insect attack to that area. So we can see the special allocation of a treatment to make production sustainable. Okay, then for the third question from the chat about the difference between single round and the unit and the multiple. As you can see, for the single round use unit, what you can do is to make land very resistant to the insect attack. Okay, so make more healthy or make more productive. But for the multiple land unit, is more special. So that means we will decide where is the place to apply the treatment. One side, to make for a single unit, we may spray or we may put some chemical to make the land more resistant to the insect attack. This is very individual. Okay, but for a multiple land, we will decide where is the place to make land more strong or weak and so on. So that's a big difference for the single unit and the multiple unit. Thank you very much. Am I answering to your question?
Okay. 橋本先生、
Yes.
ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。どうもありがとうございました。
See you next time in
Yeah, see you
Indonesia.
next time. Thank you very
On
much.
behalf of the committee, I would like to say thank you very much again. And
Thank you.
see you. また、先生、ありがとうございました。
また、どうもありがとうございました。Terima kasih.
Sama-sama. Okay. Then we move to the second invited speaker. Actually, in our schedule will be Professor Yoi Kada, Kada Sensei. Kada Sensei, irasaimasu ka? Okay, could you please check? Since Kada Sensei is not here yet, and then I move to Professor Hermanto Siregar. Prof. Hermanto. Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Hermanto Siregar. I'm ready to present the materials. Please, Prof. Hermanto.
Yeah, thank you very much. May I start my video? I mean, it cannot be open. Maybe the committee can open my video.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
I cannot use the video.
Well, yeah.
Committee maybe can help me to open the video. Make me go.
Yeah, already. That's showing. Video.
The host has stopped it.
Yes. We committee got it.
Otherwise, I'll just present without the video.
Okay. Now appear Prof. Hermanto.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Azhar. And I would also thank Professor Bustanul and all colleagues in the Perhappy as well as the committee that invite me to give this presentation. I am asked to present about how to strengthen agriculture sector towards sustainable and resilient food system. So there are 4 points to be delivered in my presentation. The first is presenting the 5 major forces which affect food and agriculture. And then I'll speak about transformation from resources intensive to knowledge intensive agriculture. And the third is innovation through strengthen agriculture and food system. And last will be about how to innovate sustainable and resilient food system. We may already aware that we have very big forces regarding population, urbanization, and uneven concentration of the population. By 2050, it is forecasted that Earth will be populated by 11.2 billion people. 9.73 billion people, and in the year of 2100, rise to 11.2 billion people. And this population concentrate mainly in ASEAN and African continents, as shown in the graph on the right of the screen. And if you see the figure in below, we could see that urban population will expand more rapidly, leaving less and much less population in the rural area, indicating less labor for agriculture and rural economic activities. The second forces is rising living standard, which can be seen from per capita GDP and implication to structural transformation as well as employment. There's a study done by FAO 2017. These graphs are from that study report. One of scenario of growth projection is taken from the IPCC scenario. SSP1 is global sustainability, meaning all the countries would adopt sustainable, consistently sustainability approach. That scenario will bring world per capita GDP to be around 35,000 US dollar at 2005 exchange rate in the year of 2080. And across the regions, there would be significant per capita GDP differentials. If we see, for instance, East Asia and Pacific, where ASEAN and other East Asia countries, without those in the category of high-income countries, the per capita GDP would be around 30,000 if we use SSP1, which is the right line over here. So, but in other parts of the world, especially in sub-Saharan and also in South Asia, it would remain way below the level of East Asian. And then secondly, concern is also about aging from 2015 to the end of this century, the proportion of older people is projected to rise from 8.3% to 22.7%. Richer and older population would change pattern or consumption of food consumption, as well as pattern of working, including in the rural area. And then agricultural trade follows global economic trend. Agricultural trade has expanded. However, most food is supplied domestically, meaning every country still need to be responsible for their own food security dominantly. And then the net imports are within the range of below 20% of the total domestic food supply. Regarding the structural transformation, in the fifth slide, we can see that structural transformation entails more production in firms which are of medium and large scale manufacturing and services sectors, and less production by households. This is a duality model. As the higher productivity sectors expand, they employ a greater fraction of the labor force, and movement of labor force into firms is called employment transformation. This employment transformation is very, very critical. If that indeed happens, so the structural transformation would be as predicted. More labor from rural area may be released to the firms if there are improvement in agriculture productivity, which we know as moving agriculture forward. And that in turn raises the nutritional status of all workers, be it in agriculture sector or other sectors, lowers the cost of raw materials for manufacturing industry, and earns foreign exchange, as well as increases the demand for other sectors' outputs. So relatively, this brings the share of agriculture to the total GDP become lower. And this is known as the paradox of agriculture growth. Why that happens? Because robust agriculture growth stimulates even faster output and employment growth in other sectors, meaning output as well as employment multipliers of agriculture sector significantly above 1. Because these firms are in the formal sector, which is formal manufacturing industry as well as formal services, the rising employment and output in those sectors lead to increased tax revenue, which in turn allows government to invest more in ways that encourage future economic transformation and resilience. Does it prediction or theory happen? Well, if we see some of the statistics, in one or two regions, it's not happening, but in others it happened. So I'll just take the global figures. For example, here at the right top of the slide, you can see that global employment share from 1990s to 2000, meaning from 2000 to 2010, agriculture employment share indeed went down from 29% to 25%. The same occurred also in manufacturing industry, went down from 24% to 22%. Conversely, for services, it increased from 47% to 53%. So the transformation actually in general happen like that. And the third force is competition for natural resources. Intensified competition for natural resources would lead to over exploitation of such resources, and also unsustainable use and degradation, creating a destructive loop whereby resource degradation leads to even more competition for the remaining available resources. And this triggers further degradation. Land degradation, deforestation, and also water scarcity are among the most visible manifestations of this unsustainable competition. In fact, around 1/3 of the world farmland is currently moderately to highly degraded. So only 2/3 or 66% remains okay or in good condition. The expansion of agriculture land accounts for around 80% of deforestation worldwide, and forest clearing is expected to grow due, among others, to urbanization and changing patterns of consumption driven by population growth, greater prosperity, as well as expanding commodity markets. The figure on the right side of this slide show the increasing agriculture land, and then the lower line is forest land, which continuously to decrease. Paradoxically, some efforts aim at reducing greenhouse gas emissions have led to further intensification of competition for land and water resources. This occurs in countries that have moved towards production of resource-intensive bioenergy instead of choosing other available and more sustainable energy sources. For example, for Indonesian oil palm, the problem that has just occurred saw this food and energy competition. We have abundant CPO, and that become a problem when most of the CPO being utilized for developing bioenergy, which is biodiesel. In fact, we still have other alternatives like water energy and also solar energy and so on. And then the fourth major force is climate change. According to IPCC, impacts of climate change are most adverse in low and middle income countries where millions of people depend very much on agriculture, and they are vulnerable to food insecurity. Yet, food and agriculture contribute significantly to GHG emissions. One study found that GHG emissions from agriculture, forestry, and other land use, AFOLU, have nearly doubled over the last 5 decades and are projected to further increase by 2050. The emission from AFOLU sector were estimated to be more than 10 gigaton of carbon dioxide equivalent, mainly caused by land use, livestock production, and soil and nutrient management. And this accounted for 21% of the total global GHG emissions. So it's quite significant. And fortunately, forests mitigate the climate change by removing GHG from the atmosphere through biomass growth. The number is about 2 gigatons a year. Hence, the net emissions of AFOLU sectors were 10 minus 2 is 8 gigaton. But this is not enough. As we see from the graph in the slide that energy sector remains the biggest contributor to these gas emissions, and it keeps increasing. And also the transportation, the yellow chunks of the graphs. And the last major force is natural disasters as well as conflict. For various conditions, climate change may significantly reduce yields or the productivity of cereals in the long run. So climate change affect negatively, especially in the long run of food crop productivity. Also, the catch potential in tropical countries could decline by 40%. Changes in temperature and rainfall will also cause the distribution of inland fish species to shift. There have been a rising trend in the occurrence of natural disasters, particularly in climatological events, such as drought, floods, and storm. The increase in weather-related event is significant concern to agriculture, given the sector's dependence on climate. And the impact of disasters on food and agriculture between 2003 to 2013 was that agriculture in low-income countries absorbed 20% of the impact of the natural disasters. And agriculture share rose to 25% when only climate-related disasters are considered. So climate-related disasters indeed have a very big adverse effect on agriculture sector. In case of drought, it is the drought causes 84% damage in agriculture productivity. That also happens to conflicts. Conflicts are important driver of food insecurity and malnutrition, reducing food availability, disrupt access to food and healthcare, undermine social protection system, and even fatalities. The prevalence of conflicts has increased since the early to mid-2000s due to rapid emergence of several factors, both international and national levels. And the second part is transformation from resource-intensive into knowledge-intensive agriculture. So the increased per capita GDP and population growth raise the demand for agriculture products and stimulate farming activities. Moreover, the rising living standard and demographic shifts have led consumers' preferences to evolve from staple and traditional food to diets based on animal proteins, packaged and processed foods, and more exacting standards of quality and food safety. And food logistics system develops, leading to further development of food value chain. The value chains are progressively characterized by the vertical coordination, and in some instances, the integrations of primary production, processing, and distribution, and then the automation of large-scale processing to higher capital and knowledge intensities. But due to some of the major forces, especially the climate, the conflict, and so on, agriculture resource base has tended to be shrinking. The productivity of agriculture resource base is declining, and its adverse environmental impacts are worsening. Existing agriculture production system, which require many inputs, have become increasingly untenable. And sustainable resilience agriculture would therefore need to take a new path, which is more knowledge intensive. And what is knowledge intensive? Knowledge intensive agriculture involves the application of advanced knowledge and information to raise productivity and profitability throughout the agriculture and food systems, while managing and mitigating risk at the same time. So the slide number 10 pose examples of value chains. An agriculture value chain can be very complex as presented. Thus, unless automated, it is difficult to be managed efficiently. And then understanding the main value chain configurations as well as its dynamics is vital for coming to grips with the sector. For each of the value chain, different government interventions can be designed that increase their competitiveness. So in this illustration, this is for dairy value chain, in which there are several types of value chains. From the most simple one, the far right column is subsistence. It's also a simple value chain, and then the local chain, and then formal chains become more complex, and when there is import of the dairy product, even become more complex. And we need to make everything in place by managing the enablers, chain enablers effectively and efficiently. And the next slide, knowledge intensive agriculture involves the application of ICT to optimize the development and application of new varieties, also farm production inputs, farm operations, as well as downstreaming processing, storage, logistics, and marketing, including standards, quality, and traceability. Of course, this must be done sustainably. According to ADB 2018, sustainable agriculture can draw on big data from environmental sensors, remote sensing, smart farming to detect contamination, alteration of key ecologies, and the spread of pests and diseases. Also, determinant of inclusive knowledge intensive agriculture is in fact education. Educations which must increasingly rely on e-extensions to widen its reach, or using the online channel. Penetrations of financial services to serve the capital requirements of knowledge-intensive agriculture can be enabled by mobile systems for credit scoring, payments, as well as savings. And also including in the smart farming is that of climate smart. Potential climate smart water-saving technologies include, among others, improved rice varieties, diversification of rice-based cropping system, conservation of agriculture, and mechanized crop planting to smart irrigation systems. Constraints in adopting these various options include biophysicals such as landscape, soil, water, and climate risk, production system such as limited access to technology, skills, and knowledge, economic constraint like high investment costs or high interest rate, and then also limited capital, social cultural constraint, reliance on traditional practices, aversion to risk, and still low participation of women. And the last constraint is gaps in enabling environments, such as limited access to credits, to markets, weak institutions, and also corruption and poor governance. And the third part is innovations to strengthen agriculture and food system. As we can see, the graph is also quite complex. Food environment contains drivers, availability and physical access, affordability, and then also the food supply chain and other attributes. And at the right of the figures, we could see the consumer behavior also important, diets changing, and then nutrition and health outcomes, and then all of this would impact on the sustainability status of a region or a country. Now, similar to value chain, we have seen that a food system is also complex. Such complexity arises from the fact that it encompasses a wide range of actors and stakeholders, and it integrates social, cultural, economic, politically, political, biophysical, environmental, infrastructure, and technical drivers that interact at different levels along the entire food supply chain to deliver outcomes for human beings and to the planet. So what is agriculture innovation? Agriculture innovation system can be depicted with this graph on the left of the slide. You could see that at the heart of the graph is farmers. So this is human-centered or farmer-centered innovations, which scoped by National Agriculture Research System, Association and Coordination of Organization, Extensionism and Services for Agribusiness Development, and also National Education and Training Organizations. And government policies is seen to be quite important in affecting all the elements of this system. And innovations in food and agriculture, based on this graph, can no longer be defined as adoption of new technologies only. So it is more about a successful combination of technological and practices, as they are functions of these subsystems or systems, new knowledge and mental structure, and also new institutions and forms of social organizations. So there are 4 drivers of innovations, which is market, and then environment, and then policies and regulatory frameworks, and last but not least, even more important in this in the current era, is science and technology. And the last part is how to innovate for sustainable and resilient food system. I draw heavily on the report by WF and FAO to 2022. They say principally in order to innovate a sustainable and resilient food system, we can do these seven points. Number 1 is innovate while protecting and respecting the right of all stakeholders, particularly the most vulnerable and those on the cusp, to participate fairly in decision-making about food system. Secondly, innovate food systems to have positive social and environmental impacts by adopting nature-positive and sustainable approaches while ensuring equitable livelihoods. And then innovate to build vibrant, agile, consumer-centric approach that supports the development of a more just and inclusive innovation ecosystem at scale. Innovate ethically to develop digital tools, technologies, and data platforms. Innovate to reconfigure ecosystems to accelerate uptake of services, prioritizing food systems transformation outcome. And number 6, innovate using different forms of knowledge from the scientific and technological ones to indigenous and localized ones. And lastly is innovate to build resilience in fragile setting. I think that's from me at the moment, and I return back to Prof. Azhar.
Thank you very much, Prof. Hermanto, for giving us a very nice presentation talking about major forces affect food and agriculture. Then I will give a chance to the floor to give questions here first in the Harris Hotel. Okay, Dr. Sujarwo, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for Prof. Hermanto explaining about the shifting of structures, especially when we thinking about Indonesians shifting sector from agriculture to industry, industry to services. And I think the transformation is very important because the innovation and technology shifting the value of resources and more added value should be followed by the transformation of the labor as well. But and what I want to trying to say is that we have a really burden about the labor in agriculture. So many people still stay in agriculture, and that is causing the smaller land owned by the farmers, and it's very difficult to innovation to be applied in agriculture. And in order to transform from from agriculture to industry, there is not enough skill for the labor surplus from agriculture to industry. And industry as well is not enough opportunity to absorb labor surplus from agriculture. So it's kind of difficult or challenging issue in increasing productivity of labor in agriculture and adoption of innovation in agriculture. Would you please give us insight about that, and what is the strategy that could be applied by probably partnership or government policy in order to effectively transform the economic structure of Indonesia to be more productive? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for Sujarwo. Is any question more? Okay, please, Prof. Hermanto, respond this question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak Sujarwo. The first thing is the industrial sector itself grows relatively slower, lower than what being expected. The case Indonesia, for example, during 10 to 15 to past 10 to 15 years, average growth of manufacturing industry output is lower even from average growth of GDP, meaning that that sector cannot pull the other sectors to grow, including the agriculture. In the agriculture itself, we can see that the share of agriculture in employment has decreased substantially from around 40% in last 2 decades or 3 to around 27% now. And but due to slow growth of industrial sector, it's not yet seen to be optimal. I mean, if this industrial sector grow faster, perhaps employment in Indonesian agriculture sector would be decreasing more significantly. Thank you. I can see that's the video can be used now. And then secondly, the scale or education of rural labor force also very important, because without suitable skills and education for jobs in industrial sectors, they cannot be absorbed to be employment in such sectors. And then number 3 is slow growth of entrepreneurial skills. Entrepreneurial skills also play very important role in the employment transformation, because following business cycle, whenever the cycle is into the bust or very low growth, all the sectors, including manufacturing and even maybe formal agriculture sectors, we laid off the labor. But if they have proper entrepreneurial skills, they can still develop business that a small business that can run sustainably. And the last one, of course, the fourth one is the policy. The policy from government would determine, including giving a scholarship and so on, to the young people in the rural area, so that they can be develop their own education and skill and work properly in the formal sector. I think that's my answer to Pak Jarwo.
Thank you very much, Prof. Hermanto, for explanation relationship between agricultural sectors and manufacturing sectors and how to transforming it both way. Okay, Prof. Hermanto, we still have a question anyway from the Zoom. Bu Diana, okay, you can give a question.
Thank you. My name is Diana Sari from Perhappy Malang. I would like to ask a question, about the possibility how if this the food system can be applied, because as we know, so far the government expected very much to agriculture ministry that we can achieve some of the commodities to be efficiency, but so far it is not successful. So I think I'm very impressive with the explanation of the this food system, but how far I want to know how far the possibility that this system can be applied, because it's not easy, and so far the government that is my opinion that the government um, didn't give too much subsidy to the people in the rural area. I think this is my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Diana. Please, Prof. Hermanto, respond the question.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Azhar, Bu Diana. The very important aspect is not to rely heavily on the government, in fact, because we have experience, maybe decades, the focus on food security actually devoted a lot of resources to one commodity, which is rice. So less attentions and proper development are given to other commodities. Secondly, as Ibu Diana mentioned, involvement of private sector is also very important because there are many instances now that public-private partnership are going very well in this development. I mean, agriculture development or food system. In Indonesia, for instance, we have Peace Agro. Yeah, in other countries also, involvement of private sector is actually giving a positive impact to the income as well as sustainability of the farms, and also food system can be developed progressively or consistently if we use the current technology, digital technology, innovation, several of which I have explained in my presentation. But also important note is in using mechanical technology. You should use the one that more sustainably, or I mean friendly to the environment. So with that, we will move from the paradigm of resource intensive approach toward more knowledge intensive approach, which contains innovation and suitable technology.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Hermanto, in responding the question and comments. And we still have time around 5 minutes. We still have a question from the floor. Okay, if we don't have question, let me.
There's a question, Pak, in chat room.
Yes.
Yeah, I will read the question from Dwi Laila. I think value chain cannot apply if it just only in one sector, but every actor in the supply chain must contribute. So how to make it happen? So yeah, I think it is correct when we are applying food supply chain development, food system development. It is indeed not only one commodity, a lot of commodity usually have to be involved. For instance, if we focus only, again, we focus only to rice, rice as our staple food, it will cost a lot, not only in terms of monetary, but also in terms of environmentally, as we know that rice field produce significant GHG emission also. So alternatively, we have also developed other sources of calories, one of which is cassava. Cassava is the productivity is very high, and maybe also the other we have to look for other similar crop and process the crops into starch. So meaning multi-input, multi food crops, then they are processed to be starch in a starch industry. From the starch, we can make a lot of food, including beras analog, analog rice, fortified rice, vermicelli, noodles, and so on and so forth, depending on whatever the preference of consumers are. So that kind of thing is important to be developed. That's the answer to the question in the chat, Prof. Azhar.
Yes. Thank you very much, Prof. Hermanto, on giving a response of the question from chat. And before I closing the session, let me kind of wrapping up or giving a keywords of the issue Prof. Hermanto Z. He already explained five major forces affect food and agriculture, and finally we need to innovate for sustainable and resilient food systems. That's a word, important word that I catch today. On behalf of the committee members of this international conference of agriculture economics, and for this organization, we really thanks Prof. Hermanto for your very great contribution, a kind of a new concept how to transforming global food system, especially to strengthen agriculture sectors. So we send best regard from Haris Hotel Malang, Prof. Hermanto. See you next time. Thank you very much. And I
you, Pak.
think the end of my responsibility today as a session chair, and I'll give back to you to master ceremony. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good
Waalaikumsalam.
afternoon.
Thank you very much, Professor Insinyur Muhammad Arsyad, MSc PhD, for leading the first conversation. Looking forward to seeing you again on the upcoming event. Ladies and gentlemen, after this, we will move to the parallel session for paper competition, but it's only for the online participant. There are 3 breakout rooms. You can see the details at the guidebook. And for you all, the offline participants, you will back to this boardroom and watch the first breakout room and see the paper presentation. And also for you who already registered about the field trip to promo, please kindly contact the committee so you will know how the mechanism to go to the promo for tomorrow event. And please back to this ballroom until 12:30 p.m. Western Indonesian time, and we will start the polarization here. And while resting, you can enjoy the lunch and our special video compilation. So please enjoy and see you again after the break. Baik, sekali lagi kami informasikan bahwa Bapak Ibu sekalian dipersilahkan untuk melaksanakan isoma dan diharap kembali pukul 12.30 tepat karena sesi paralel akan dimulai pukul 12.30 tepat, dan nanti bagi para offline participants akan menyaksikan presentasi dari breakout room 1. Dan kemudian di akhir akan ada pengumuman pemenang dari lomba kategori artikel, poster, dan juga the best paper. Seperti itu. Silakan.
Cek, cek, cek. Tes.
Dan kami informasikan bagi Bapak Ibu yang akan mengikuti field trip ke Bromo untuk bisa menghubungi panitia untuk mengetahui jadwal dan juga mekanisme pemberangkatan untuk esok hari, karena tentunya menuju Bromo ada beberapa hal yang harus dipersiapkan. Seperti itu, bisa menghubungi panitia di bagian belakang sebelum pintu keluar ya Bapak dan Ibu sekalian.
Cek. Masih masuk.
Cek. 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 Cek 1. Cek, 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 satu. Cek. Cek 1. Cek 1 2 3 4 5 6. Cek sudah.